Like and subscribe and click the bell icon to get new video updates.
Ukraine latest, deaths as Kharkiv apartment blocks hit by shelling. Mariupol defenders refuse Russia's surrender or die ultimatum. At least 18 people have been killed and more than 100 wounded after shelling in the center of Kharkiv, according to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, as the southeastern port city of Mariupol looked on the brink of falling to Russia. On Sunday local time, 5 people were killed and 20 were injured when a missile and artillery fire hit central Kharkiv and the Saltivka suburb, Regional Governor Oleh Synyehubov announced, adding to earlier casualties over the previous 3 days. This is nothing but deliberate terror, mortars, artillery against ordinary residential quarters, against ordinary civilians, Mr Zelenskyy said. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba said there have not been any recent diplomatic communications with Russia at the foreign ministry level and that the dire situation in Mariupol may halt the path of negotiations. Russia estimated 2,500 Ukrainian fighters were holding out at a steel plant in the last pocket of resistance in Mariupol, much of which has been reduced to a smoking ruin during a 7-week siege. Moscow gave the city's defenders a surrender or die ultimatum with a Sunday, saying those who laid down their arms were guaranteed to keep their lives. But the fighters ignored the demand, just as they had rejected previous ultimatums. The British government has said its support for Ukraine is resolute after the Kremlin imposed travel bans on Prime Minister Boris Johnson and other senior officials. Easter of war as Russian strikes continue across Ukraine. Major population centers across Ukraine were struck by Russian assaults over the Easter weekend. Regional Governor Oleh Synehubov said that Kharkiv's city center and the Saltivka suburb were hit by rocket launcher and artillery fire, causing casualties and destroying apartment blocks. Mr Zelenskyy said Ukraine's armed forces had successfully engaged in counterattacks in the Kharkiv region, recapturing 2 villages fully and another partially. Kharkiv Mayor Igor Terekhov urged the city's residents to take shelter and leave if possible, as they were defending their lives and honor fighting against the ruthless army of the aggressor. Today is a big Orthodox holiday, Palm Sunday. Even days that are sacred to Christians are no reason for the enemy to lessen bombardments on Kharkiv, he said. We are moving people to places that are less dangerous because there are no longer any fully safe places in Kharkiv. There we provide a place to live, hot food, shower, medical help. Local media reported an explosion in Kyiv, although Deputy Mayor Mykola Povoroznyk said air defense systems had thwarted Russian attacks. The mayor of Brovary city, close to Kyiv, said a missile attack had damaged infrastructure. Russia said it had destroyed an ammunition factory near the capital. As cleanup operations continued in areas where the Russians have retreated, Ukraine's human rights ombudswoman said almost all high-rise buildings in the town of Saltivka were unfit for occupation. Authorities said 41 bodies had been recovered in the town of Borodyanka. Most Ukrainians celebrate Orthodox Easter next Sunday, but in Bucha, a town north of Kyiv where Ukraine accuses Russia of killing dozens of civilians, some 50 people attended a church service, carrying pussy willow and praying for the dead. Russia denies targeting civilians and has called images from Bucha fake. Read more. I just prayed today to stop crying, said resident Evgeniya Lebedko after the service. We have survived these horrors and we are constantly crying. And I don't want those tears to fall, but I go out every day and I smell it and I cry all the time. Meanwhile, during the papal address in St. Peter's Square after Mass on Sunday, Pope Francis implicitly criticized Russia, pleading for an end to the bloodshed and lamenting the Easter of war. May there be peace for war-torn Ukraine, so sorely tried by the violence and destruction of the cruel and senseless war into which it was dragged, he said. Mr Zelenskyy accused Russia on Saturday of deliberately trying to destroy everyone in Mariupol. Despite the desperate situation in Mariupol, Ukraine said it was holding off Russian forces in other parts of the Donbas regions of Donetsk and Luhansk, which before the invasion were already partly controlled by Russian-backed separatists. Police in the Donetsk region said that during the past 24 hours, Russian forces had opened fire from tanks, multiple rocket launchers and heavy artillery on 13 settlements under Ukrainian control, killing 2 civilians. The Luhansk governor Syehubov said that, since the start of the war, all but 20,000 of acting capital Severodonetsk's 130,000 residents had left the city. Shelling of the town of Zolot on Sunday killed at least 2 people, he added. Ukraine vows to win this war. Ukrainian Prime